What's up everyone, Dimitri here. In this video, I'm going to do a full breakdown of Devin Booker's shooting form. Book has one of the smoothest looking jumpers in the NBA, and he's been a very consistent shooter throughout his entire career. I'm going to break down each piece of his jump shot for you here in this one, from his footwork and his stance, to how he holds the ball, his set point, release, follow through, and more. These are all the mechanics that make up the shooting form of Devin Booker. Alright, let's dive in. I'll start with Booker's footwork and his stance. As for his footwork, most of Booker's 1 and 2 dribble pull-ups in the mid-range come off the 1-2 step. But he does mix in the hop on occasion too. I noticed him use the hop a little more when shooting threes. But the majority are still off the 1-2. As for his stance when he shoots, when shooting balanced shots, Booker has his feet a little wider than shoulder distance apart. His right foot is out a little further from his shoulder than his left foot is, making his right knee cave in more than his left one. When shooting off the dribble where he isn't on balance, like he's driving in one direction and his momentum is really carrying him, Booker takes an even wider stance than usual. He takes a wide step with his outside foot in order to counteract his momentum and help him stop on a dime. The knee valgus is even more exaggerated on that outside leg. When driving left, that's his left leg. When driving right, that's his right leg. Here's Booker's stance on a pull-up like this versus his stance on a balanced shot. The other part of Booker's stance is how he points his feet and which way he's facing when he begins his shot. At the start of his shot, Book's feet are pointed to the left. This is pretty standard for NBA shooters. What this does is it turns his whole body to the left, aligning his shooting shoulder with the basket. See how his hips, chest, and shoulders are facing left? His head is facing the basket, the rest of his body is not. By turning to the left, his shooting shoulder is now further ahead than his left, aligning it with the basket and making it so he doesn't have to shoot across his body. Last thing, and again, this is pretty standard throughout the NBA, Booker also has his right foot ahead of his left foot, or slightly closer to the basket than his left. And this goes hand in hand with the shooting shoulder. Shooting shoulder forward, shooting foot forward. Next up, how Devin Booker holds the basketball. Let's start with where he places his hands. Book puts his shooting hand in the middle of the ball, so that by the time he's just about to release, his shooting hand is in the middle of it and now under it. And he has his fingers on his shooting hand spread wide. As for his guide hand, it's to the side of the ball. And it's positioned in a way that once he gets to his release, it's shaded up towards the top left part of the ball, and slightly towards the front. See how his fingers are curled over the top left there, from Book's perspective? I'll show you later how he removes his guide hand from the ball before he shoots it, so that this isn't a problem. As for his grip, Book has a relaxed grip, meaning he's not actively squeezing the ball or anything. and he's got the ball sitting on the pads of his fingers and thumb, and slightly elevated off his palm. You can see that small amount of space there between the ball and his palm. The ball isn't completely resting in his palm like a Damian Lillard, but it's certainly not completely elevated off his palm either, like a Ray Allen. Alright, moving on. Booker's shot pocket and lift path. Here's Book's shot pocket, or where he brings the ball to begin his shot, right before he starts to dip the ball and then raise it into the air. And I'm going to show you his shot pocket on catch and shoot shots first. And then in a minute, I want to show you something with his off the dribble shots and how he gathers the ball. Okay, it's going to vary based on the situation, but in general, Book tends to bring the ball a little lower than his waist to begin his shot. And he brings it to the middle of his body. That might be shaded over to his left a little. This is the most straight on angle I could find, so it's kind of hard to tell. I mentioned his shot pocket can vary based on the situation. Here's one where he's catching the ball from his left. So he just begins his shot from his left side here. He doesn't bring the ball back over to the middle of his body or anything. He starts his shot from where he catches it. Back to his regular shot pocket. His elbows are relaxed and by his sides. So from the catch, Book brings the ball to his shot pocket. Watch how the ball goes in a straight line here down to his shot pocket. From here, Book quickly dips the ball before raising it up to his set point. Booker's dip is extremely quick. He really doesn't dip the ball that much. I'll be curious to see how fast his shot is when I time it all later in the video. But watch it here in slow-mo. Watch the ball go down for a brief moment before he raises it up. So it's a quick dip, and then he also kind of pushes the ball out forward before he raises it up to his set point. So it's a down and out motion, and then up. See how even as he starts to dip the ball is basically over top his knees? And now, as he raises the ball to his set point, the ball is further out than his knees. This is his lift path, by the way. It's the path of the ball from his shot pocket to his set point. Here's another angle showing how he extends the ball out on his lift path. From here, he's going to dip, push the ball out, and raise it up to his set point. The ball is on top of his knees, and now it's in front of his knees. Okay, and then here's his lift path from the front angle. Alright, last thing here. That was on catch and shoots. When shooting pull-ups off the dribble, Booker usually gathers the ball either below his waist or right around waist height. But sometimes he'll gather the ball pretty high too. Sometimes he'll let the ball bounce high up at his chest or shoulders before getting both hands on it. The next part of Devin Booker's shooting form that I'm going to break down is his set point. Your set point is that transition point in your shot when you're done raising the ball into the air and you're about to start actually shooting the ball towards the basket. Watch it close. He raises the ball, quick pause, and now he begins to shoot. This is his set point. What I look at with the set point is, where is the ball? Is it above the head, below the head, somewhere in between? Is it shaded over to one side of the body? And then also, what does their form look like at this point? So first I'll show you the location of Booker's set point, and then I'll show you his form. Booker adjusts the location of his set point quite a bit, depending on the situation he finds himself in. Let me show you his more standard set point first, and then I'll show you some examples of how he adjusts it. Booker's standard set point is right here. He brings the ball up towards the top of his head. The ball is not completely clearing his head. The bottom of it is basically in line with his hair. And then he brings it as far back as the front of his head. The ball is over his face, basically. And it's in the middle of his body. But like I said, Book adjusts his set point quite a bit based on the situation. Here's a three-pointer where he's got Mikal Bridges closing out on him. So he raises his set point in order to get the shot off. See how the ball is clearing his head now? Here's one where his defender is on his left, so he adjusts his set point to his right more. On this one, he brings the ball back behind his head more. Same with this one. Here, he lowers his set point to get more range. And then, like pretty much every elite mid-range player, Book raises his set point on mid-range shots that are contested so he can get the shot off. So back to his lift path. Book starts his jumper at his shot pocket here and raises the ball to his set point here. Alright, that was where Booker brings the ball to when he reaches his set point. Now I'm going to break down his form as he reaches this part of his jumper. I'll start with his shooting elbow. On his regular shot, at his set point, Booker's shooting elbow is just above parallel with the ground. When he elevates his set point, his elbow points up more, like here in the mid-range. Or on this contested 3 here. Which, to raise the ball up higher, your elbow's gonna go with it. But yeah, back to his regular shot. With his elbow a little above parallel with the ground, and his wrist flexed back, it creates these angles here. Booker has really good wrist flexion. This gets his hand completely under the ball and facing upwards at his set point here, which helps you get proper arc on your shot. Book starts his shot with his wrist slightly flexed. Watch how he starts flexing it before his hand even gets on the ball. So it's slightly flexed here as he starts his shot, and then as he raises the ball to his set point, he flexes his wrist back even more. Slightly bent back, fully bent back. The other thing I look at when it comes to the shooting elbow at the set point is which direction is it facing. The reason I look at this is because I believe the easiest way to shoot a basketball is by having your elbow face the basket at some point during your shot. Lining up your elbow with your target is going to help you shoot straight on a consistent basis. Some players have their shooting elbows facing the basket right at their set point. Others get it to face the basket later in their shot. For Booker, at his set point, his shooting elbow is facing to the left of the basket. The only other player I've seen this from so far in my breakdowns is KD. See how his elbow is facing us right now? Imagine a line starting from his shoulder and going across his bicep and then elbow. That line is facing, well, a little to our right actually. So when I zoom back out and go forward a few frames, you can see that we're positioned well to the right of the basket, which means Booker's elbow here is facing to his left. The other way to tell his shooting elbow is facing left is to look at his head. His head is facing the basket. His upper arm and elbow are clearly not facing that same direction. Alright, last couple things with Booker's set point. I mentioned earlier that his set point is in the middle of his body. Well, to hold the ball in the middle like this, your forearm is naturally going to have to tilt over to the side. So here at his set point, Booker's hand, wrist, and forearm are leaning over to his left. As a right-handed shooter, the more left you go with your set point, the more your arm is going to tilt. KD's set point is much more to his left than Steph's, so KD's arm is tilted more. Booker's set point is right in the middle of his body, so the degree of his tilt is somewhere between Steph and KD. So with everything tilting over to his left a bit, that's also going to make his shooting hand face to the left. His shooting hand is under the ball and facing upwards, like I showed you earlier, and it's also facing left a bit. And then his guide hand is over to the side, but his fingers are curling over that top left part of the ball there, from Booker's perspective. So this is Devin Booker's form and the location of the ball at his set point. Let me show you now how he goes from this point here to his release. The next part of Booker's shooting form is his release. Okay, so in the last section, I mentioned that at his set point, Booker's forearm and wrist are angled to the side, since his set point is in the middle of his body. And this makes his shooting palm face up and to his left a little. Now, ideally, you want your shooting hand directly under the ball and facing straight up right before you release. So let's see what Booker's release looks like. Watch his shooting hand. As his shot progresses from his set point to his release, his shooting hand ends up directly under the ball right before he snaps his wrist. Now his hand is facing straight up, and as he snaps his wrist, it's facing straight towards the basket. Remember back to his set point how his elbow was facing left. Well, again, as his shot progresses from his set point to his release, as he really shoots the ball by extending his elbow and snapping his wrist, his elbow ends up facing the basket on his release. His shooting arm finishes fully extended, and his elbow finishes up at the top of his forehead, which the higher your elbow finishes, the more arc you're going to get. Bare minimum, you want to be at least as high as your eyes, which Booker is clearing easily. Okay, as for his release and follow through, I believe Book is shooting the ball with his pointer, middle, and ring fingers together. His middle finger is the last to leave the ball, which makes sense, it's the longest. But it looks to me like he's shooting with those three fingers equally. And here it is a little faster. The other part of this is his thumb sort of squeezes in. Watch it from here. Here's another look at it. Watch the pointer, middle, and ring finger. Now watch the thumb sort of tuck in very slightly. On his follow through, Booker's palm faces down and his fingers finish facing down but forwards, and then they curl a bit after the fact. The other thing I wanted to point out with his follow through is sometimes he does a sort of quick wrist snap where he's not doing a full follow through. He does this in the mid-range. MJ and Kobe did this sometimes too. Okay, last thing with Booker's release, his guide hand. Remember earlier how I mentioned that at his set point, Book's guide hand is shaded towards the top left part of the ball, from his perspective, and his fingers are curling over the top left part too. Now, if everything stayed as it was, the tips of his fingers could potentially interfere with his release. But Book gets his guide hand completely off the ball right before he releases, so that there's zero interference or influence from his guide hand on his shot. To remove his guide hand, Book bends his wrist back and forward a bit. See how his fingers are facing a little more forward now? Next up, legs. When shooting on balance shots, Booker jumps towards the basket as he shoots. As he jumps, he also kicks his legs forward. Especially on mid-range pull-ups. The other thing I want to show you with Booker's legs is just the timing of his knee bend and extension in relation to the rest of his shot and his release. From the catch, as he brings the ball to his shot pocket, he starts to bend his knees. He continues to bend them even more as he dips the ball and starts raising it up to his set point. Watch his knees. So this is the point where his knees are most bent. If I move forward a bit, you'll see his legs start to extend now, back to where they are most bent. The ball hasn't reached his set point yet. It's around shoulder height. From here, he's gonna start extending his legs and jumping off the ground. So Booker starts to jump before he reaches his set point. I'm gonna play this forward and I'll pause it when his legs are fully extended. Legs are fully extended, and now the ball is at his set point. From here, he's gonna continue to elevate as he releases his shot. This is not something that Booker or any shooter really actively thinks about while shooting, but I like to point out the timing of it all because it contributes to the unique look of each player's shooting form and also the rhythm of their shot. Alright, last thing with Booker's jump shot, how fast he shoots it. I'm gonna time Booker shooting a few threes, and then I'll let you know how it compares with other shooters I've done this for. Okay, so I'm gonna start the timer when Book has the ball at his shot pocket, a little below his waist. This is the start of his shot, right before he starts to dip the ball and then raise it into the air. I'm gonna stop the timer the moment the ball is completely clear from his hands. Okay, from here, he's gonna start dipping the ball. Here we go. 0.72 seconds. Here's another. 0.61. This is going to vary from shot to shot, obviously, but I just wanted to give you an idea of around how fast Booker shoots the ball. For comparison, I had Steph at 0.57 and 0.49 on a couple of his, KD at 0.74 and 0.78, and SGA at 0.66 and 0.51. His footwork and his shooting stance, how he holds the ball, his shot pocket, lift path, set point, release, legs, and release time. These are all the different pieces that make up the shooting form of Devin Booker. Alright, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two. If you liked this one, definitely check out some of my other form breakdown videos, which I'll link to in the description. Alright, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.